Here's the design we're working on today. It's Anita Goodesign. It's what I call a tile scene. It's made with different blocks, so you do each section separate. You don't have to worry about having the whole thing line up in your hoop. You do one block at a time, so if you make a mistake, you're not ruining the whole thing. And this one's called Let It Snow. And I'm using this one as an example because it's not real big. There's a lot of tile scenes that Anita Goodesign makes. So this is one of the smallest one. This is actually from PJ's in the Hoop projects. So the first thing that you have is this particular one gives you a list, I'm not sure if you can see it very well, of what kind size pieces to cut for each section. And since this is small, it didn't take all that much fabric. So we're going to be working on block 1. So I've got my fabrics ready for block 1. I have my printout sheet, the PDF, with my step-by-step instructions for the block 1, 2, and 3 are on the same page. But it gives me placement, what I'm going to place. Get a little closer. There we go. So it's like my color chart, except it's also going to tell me what to do. So the first one is, the first line is going to be my placement for my batting. So I have my batting ready. And on that list that she has, I think it's 10 blocks. They're different sizes, but around 7 by 7. I got my threads ready. I normally use Floriani Poly, but I have a bunch of Sulky threads left. These are rayon, so they're not color fast, which means, you know, you don't really want to wash with them, but this is going on the wall, so it's not that big a deal. I've got, and I'm trying to use up some of these threads. Got tape ready if I need it. I always wind a bunch of bobbins. I've put in a new needle. I got my cutter, ruler, pins, scissors. I have my scissors for cutting threads, which are the little curved ones. I have my applique duckbill scissors, because I know I'm going to have to trim around. For example, I'll probably have to trim around here, and we'll see as we go. So I've got everything ready. This pattern doesn't really tell you what color threads to use. So I've got a, this is my, this is my border fabric here. So I've got a blue thread to go with that. My background is Michael Miller's, you see the shiny to it. It's the Fairy Frost with sparkles in it. So I've got white for that. This purple is part of the mittens. And then I did the scarf, as you'll see, is in a lighter purple. So I've picked a purple thread for that. My fabric for my jacket is black and white. I didn't really want to go with black for that trim, so I picked a kind of a gray for that. I've got carrot. That's a carrot nose, and the black outline for the face, like his smile and his eyes. And then my lettering that says Let It Snow is in this green. So the first thing on this pattern is she's not using, I believe it's a she, she's not using stabilizer, she's using a muslin. So just a regular muslin, nothing real thick. I've hooped that, you see. No stabilizer, just muslin. I've picked out my first block and have that all ready. So let me just get started and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I'm ready to get started, and what I've done is I have an Olissimo and I have a 2-thread stand. So I know I'm going to use white and blue here, so I put those up on the 2-thread stand, and down here I just put another odd color. That's just for my placement line, so I don't have to keep moving that, back and forth. So let's get ready. And I've just got to thread my machine. So it's going to start and do my very first placement line for my batting. let's see if I can zoom in a little closer so you can see the actual placement lines. You can see it right along here. So I'm going to take my batting, and I use warm and natural. So one side is, I call it kind of seedy, a little bumpy. I'm going to put that down. I'm not sure that it really matters, but it's just a habit I have, I guess. I'm going to make sure, let me back up. Oops, sorry. Well, that isn't helpful, is it? I'm going to make sure that I am over all my lines to smooth it down, so I'm equally past those stitching lines. And now it's going to tack this down. And I didn't spray it or anything. I don't think it's really necessary. It's doing a bean stitch, which is 3 stitches, forward, back, forward, so it gives it a nice tack down. So if you trim something, though in this case we're not going to trim clothes, but instead of having just 1 stitch to tack something down, especially batting, it's doing a triple stitch, so that just makes it a little nicer. Shadow, trying not to have there. Maybe that's a little better. Now it's doing a placement line, and it tells me in my instructions that it's a tack down for the batting and a placement line for my border and background fabric. So this is the top left-hand corner that we're doing first. Well, it's not top, I guess it's the left-hand corner. Let me get the picture. I guess it's the bottom left-hand corner, so let me turn this so that you can see it. Oop, turn it over. So we're doing this little section right here, so I've got border here and there. Their border is darker, and I'm doing the light blue, so can you see that? So we're doing this square right here first. So it must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm not quite sure how that row goes. So it's actually starting at the bottom instead of the top, because the top is curved. So I'm not going to trim anything. I'm not going to trim until I've got the block all done as far as the batting goes. So I'm placing down my background fabric. So I want to, excuse me, I want to make sure the important thing with any of these fabrics that you lay down is you've got to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance out past this last stitching line. So this line here, your fabric has got to be out a 1/2 inch this way across the top and down the bottom. Another fabric is going here. Your background fabric is going here, so it's not going to matter so much about that. I've changed to my white thread because I'm on number 3, which is tack down in detailed border fabric. Oh, just to show you in case this happens to you, my red light's on, which means it's red for stop as opposed to green for go. I put my foot down. I couldn't understand why it wasn't turning green. If you have this problem you don't know, if you hit it, then you look at your screen, it will tell you, I forgot to put my lever down here. So it doesn't hurt it to hit it to see what's going on, because sometimes you just can't remember everything. as I said before, I have the Elissimo, Baby Lock Elissimo, and there was a free update online at babylock.com under the downloads for the Elissimo, which added the ability to use the 6 inch by 6 inch hoop. So I have a 6 inch by 6 inch hoop. If I didn't have that, I would have had to use my 8 by 8 hoop, and that would have been, you know, a lot of empty space that I don't need to have. So it's always good to check with your local machine dealer to see if there's anything new out or any updates out that you might be interested in. So it went around and did my areas where I am actually going to trim. I'm going to trim in this section right here. This is my border, where my border is supposed to be, and my ½ inch I need to keep. Now it's doing some snowflakes that are a little decorative element of the block. I'm not sure how well you can see mine. Let's see if I can move it out for you a little bit. Oops, sorry. So there's my little snowflake is right there. Unless I picked the snowflake fabric, probably not the. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Not so sure now, but I could have used silver, or I could have used a blue, I guess, if I wanted to show more. But in person, they show pretty good. As soon as this is finished sewing, I'm going to take the hoop off of the machine. I'm not taking the fabric out of the hoop, and I'm going to trim along these two sides. I'm going to leave this alone, and then I'll show you what I did. Okay, so now I'm going to trim this. Oh, excuse me, got my whole head in the way. I'm going to trim this block so you can see where the actual fabric is going to stay. So I'm going to start from over here because it's easier to lift this. And when I lift this and cut, I want to make sure I'm cutting on an angle. See how this angle is. Not the neatest angle, but it's on an angle. That gives the fabrics from both parts. The white will, when we cut the white, it'll cross over in this direction, and so they will cross over each other, and there won't be any little raw edges when we seam this together. I just have to hold this fabric up, and as long as I keep my applique scissors flat, I'm not going to have any problem. And again, I'm going to come out at the angle. Oop. Got a little extra there. So you can see I've angled it down at this side, and I've angled it here. So I'm ready to do my next section. When I put my when I put my hoop back on, I want to make sure that back here I've pulled the fabric out. All the fabric, or that muslin, is out from underneath. And again, I want to make sure I put my lever down there that I didn't do before. So I'm on number 4, and it says tack down and detail background fabric. So I'm using white on that. So I already have the white in. I guess I could have used the blue here. I didn't think about that. Maybe that's what I had the blue for. I'm going to lay my fabric down, and again I want to make sure I've got this right. Some of these pieces are different sizes, so I want to make sure I have the right size, and I want to make sure that I have a 1/2 inch at the top and a 1/2 inch at this side, and then I want to make sure I'm just over enough on the two sides that come over this fabric, because I'm going to cut those back. And again, I didn't spray it. I don't think there's really any need for that. It stays pretty nice, especially this Michael Miller Fairy Frost fabric. It's got a little more body to it. And before I cut my pieces out, I always use Best Press on my fabric before that, and so it gives it a little more body when I'm embroidering. So this is going to do the tack down, and then it's going to do some little dots like in the section, in around the backbone. As soon as that's done, I'll show you the next step.